let's talk return to office. And there's been several return to offices. It seems like daily, there's another company that's announcing a big return to office. One of the ones we specifically looked at that started last year in 2024 was Dell. In February of 2024, they said, okay, look, we're going to hybrid, right? We're going to hybrid where we need people to come into the office. And I don't think this was everybody. I think they have some people that are fully remote depending on where they work, but they were like, you need to be in the office 39 days a quarter, which was roughly 3 days a week. And then flash forward to what, 6 months later, September, I think it was like on a Friday. Oh, it was sent on a Thursday. And it was like starting on Monday, everybody needs to be in the office 5 days a week.
Okay, yeah. So just immediate shift. And then I love the memo. Cited the sales floor as a unique environment combining high energy and collaboration. Quote, to harness this energy and grow skills, we believe our sales teams need to be together in the office. And the memo added, additionally, our data shows that sales teams are more productive when on site. Anytime we see the quotes about productivity's better they'll always say our data shows, or many times I've seen where it'll be in parentheses, they'll say anecdotally, or they'll reference one or two stories about, no, it is better. I promise you, I've been told it's better. In all the things that we read through, it was very difficult to find what it actually was. Because I did see one where, not related to Dell, but it was another one where they said, oh, when our team is remote, the new user signups are, 30% less. And then as you dig into it to try to figure out, okay, how did they calculate this? What are some of the reasons? That's literally all it said. It's no, we heard a story that said they were 30% less. So it was really a challenge to verify the rationale behind those.
Well, to me, the big red flag is why the urgency? Why does it have to be starting on Monday? Even if we gave them the full benefit of the doubt, we said everything they said they're being 100% honest about. Sales teams are more productive when they're on site. Okay. We believe our sales teams need to be together. We need to have more collaboration. Okay. Why does it have to be like this immediate thing that needs to happen on Monday? And especially like to me, like I'm like, okay, February, they're starting to be like, okay, hey guys, we feel like we need people to be in the office more. Let's start having people come into the office more. It's like, why couldn't have this been a more gradual thing? To me, it smells bad. It's just like something else. There's something else that's behind this and not what we're being told 100%.
And let's talk about the academic calendar and how it matches with this. So, September 26th, school has already begun. All of your plans for what's going on, let's say you're working remotely, and I know some of our team members got this little sliver of time where you go and you pick up the kids or whatever that arrangement is. If you're telling people in 2 days, your life is different, you're going to be here every day of the week, there's no time to make those adjustments. A lot of the after school programs could already be full. This is upending lives.
Yeah, it smells bad on several different angles. And, to your point earlier too about this data, it's like, well, what is this data exactly? Is that something you're willing to share and show everybody? And there have been cases, like you said, where when they do share it, it ends up being like, oh, that's just somebody said that. There's no real data. And there was that article you shared with me this week. I think it was JP Morgan, where because they're doing a big return to work, and the executive there is like heel stuck in, like he ain't, but like it's a standoff, right? He's like, I ain't budging. But the funny thing is, he's talking about efficiencies. He's talking about people being more engaged. And then when you look at the numbers, like their business has grown exponentially in the last 5 years. This isn't adding up. What's really going on? And again, like we mentioned earlier with the collaboration excuse or reason, it tends to be more about like we want to cut a bunch of jobs. And the best way for us to do that is to be like, you need to come back to the office. And if you can't, so sorry. We understand if you have to move on to other things because this just doesn't work for you.
Well, and this is like, it's so interesting. This is where I heard that about the parking lot being full. It was from our Dell example. The other part of this, aside from like the parking lot's full, the office building is full, there was this, as we look at it in the context of this, of where the companies were like, no, we need to continue our work. It's so important. So you're going to work remotely in order to sell people on it. They're like, oh, it improves your work-life balance. What's better for our companies is, better for our employees is better for our company. And one of the quotes from one of the employees during the Dell return to office was that it's very disappointing that a company such as Dell, which supposedly prides itself on pushing a good work-life balance, has instead cultivated a culture of fear and losing one's job if we don't have butts and seats. And so that's another trend that we are seeing. Really is interesting of like what was pitched under the guise of we really want to take care of our employees and the work-life balance, or some of those things are coming to look as if that might not have been true, Ken.
Yeah, and I think that's the funny thing as well that makes me feel like this isn't really thought out, or they're expecting a different result. Like they're saying everybody needs to be back in the office, but as this person's pointing out, they're not realizing, wait, if everybody comes back to the office, do we have enough parking spaces? Do we have enough office spaces if everybody just shows up here on Monday? In their mind, they're thinking, yeah, a bunch of people are going to just quit. They're going to be like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be there. So it'll be fine. And then when everybody's like, yeah, well, I'm definitely going to be, they're thinking to themselves, it's probably going to be time for me to look for another job, but I can't do that before Monday. So I'm going to have to play along until I can find my way to get out of this. And it's like everybody shows up. It reminds me of the red light cameras in the Houston area. I think it was I think it was in the city of Houston. Like they had this big contract with this company to install these red light cameras, and they're like, we want people to be safer. What ended up happening is they implemented it. So they signed this contract to do this, and part of the contract signing was they thought like they had calculated, here's how much money this is going to generate for us, and we'll be able to use some of that money to pay for all of the work and the equipment that has to be installed for this. Well, what ended up happening is they installed the red light cameras, and people are like, I better not run red lights. I don't want to get a ticket. And so the number of red lights that were run were cut so low, they weren't generating enough revenue to even pay for it. And so they basically had to like get out. They had to figure out a way to get out of this whole thing, because it wasn't really about safety. It was about, here's another way we can generate money for the city.
Interesting unintended consequences of a decision. You're like, you made a decision based on some assumptions that in the end did not turn out to be true. We're going to head into the final point of this conversation. We're going to talk about the problem with mandates.